Chad was a man just like any of us. He worked a regular job, but for him, something like this was just too boring for him. He was a talented man and felt that he could accomplish great things. He had heard of a far-off planet that, while inhabited, had no real rules or central government, so anything goes there. In the middle of the night, he just decided to go for it. He didn't even pack anything, which made the spaceflight over there really uncomfortable, but the weird stares didn't matter to him. All he could think of was about how he was going to prove the naysayers who were saying that he was a masochist and he was going to struggle and die. With his skills, he was going to make a legend out of himself on this distant Rimworld. Also, remember, if you enjoy watching Chad's story, subscribe and like the video so you can see other great stories like this. Fortunately, Chad had found a nice spot where he could set up his home with some large hills to use as choke points. He collected some berries, cut down some trees, and just casually made one of the world's best beds, depicting himself in unflattering detail, to be honest. But it wasn't long until Chad understood why he had been warned about the crazy wildlife, with a crazy guinea pig coming to kill him, and they really are built different here, considering it took 4 arrows to take that thing down. But that was nothing compared to when he had to deal with a tortoise. Chad shot several arrows at it and they just bounced off the shell. So he had to make another weapon to deal with it, but didn't have the resources, so he had to rush and mine the steel before the animal got to him. Thankfully, level 20 mining makes this super fast so he could run back to his little cabin and make the steel club. You'd think with level 20 melee this would be an easy fight, right? Well, the tortoise manages to nearly kill Chad by biting his neck before Chad knocks it out. Out of pure respect for it, he doesn't finish the tortoise off, instead just healing himself. Afterwards, Chad gets a request from the Refugee Imperium to do a quest for them, and one of the rewards was a new colonist, but upon seeing that he is a wimp, hypersensitive, and a misogynist, it was obvious that this boy was a capital G gamer, so Chad couldn't let his kind into his home. Chad had other things to worry about, like building a better bow that might actually be able to kill a turtle. A refugee begs for housing, and although he doesn't say anything about himself, Chad takes a chance and lets him in. But once they meet each other, Chad notices that Parsos is a pyromaniac, and he begins to think there was a big mistake made. Still, 2 pairs of hands are better than 1, so Chad tried to make it work. Even as the heat wave pounded away at them, they were getting stuff done. But as if the heat wasn't enough, a raider named Amanda came to cause trouble, and since she was armed with a revolver, she could be a serious problem. The keyword was could be because she's also wimp and a fragile, so 1 arrow grazing her leg is enough to take her down, leaving Chad with a potential recruit. It seemed like she was easy to convince. One talk with Chad and Amanda nearly lost complete faith in her former belief system. Another colonist joins for practically free since although she's getting chased by dogs, I found it pretty easy to deal with them. Chad then pushes Amanda over the edge to join his faith. But speaking about faith, poor Paizoto lives a tragic life. A passion to be able to hit people over the head with a club, but her dumb religion says she shouldn't be able to do that. Must be a horrible way to live your life. Parsos had gotten pretty comfortable in the colony and really wanted to stick around permanently, but he was just too dangerous to keep around. I mean, can't forget that he was a pyromaniac, so he's a liability. Later, Chad had a great opportunity to take advantage of. An important member of the Refugee Imperium sought safety in the colony, and all he had to do was kill 1 crazy cat. That was enough to earn him the title of Yeoman from the Refugee Imperium, but the happiness in the colony would not last long. Stewing over his rejection from the colony and jealous of Chad's success, Parsos decided to betray everyone. If he wasn't going to be a part of the colony, then he would burn it all down, but sadly, he did not have the combat skills to accomplish this goal. Although Parsos had betrayed Chad, he had still been an important part in building up this colony, so Chad gave him an appropriate place to put his body to rest. Parsos' presence was quickly replaced with Amanda, who made a much better addition to the colony, despite her fragility. Soon, a pig raider tried to test the colony, only armed with a concussion grenade, and that went as well as you would expect. The real problem would potentially be the manhunting monkeys coming to attack us, but once Chad armored up, he had no problem dealing with them. although it was clear it was time to invest more into defenses by walling off and creating better choke points to defend against raiders, but these walls could do nothing to defend the colony against the cold snap coming to here. Even with 2 heaters in a room, they couldn't even produce above freezing temperatures. Fortunately, jackets were enough to keep the colonists going with only minor frostbite. With the end of the cold snap, we were having a great time, but sadly, good times can't last long with Randy since he sent a large group of imps to attack the colony. The colonists scrambled to put on their armor in preparation for the battle, only arriving just in time to meet the raiders in battle. The traps had done a great job in softening up the attackers, and Amanda had managed to quickly rush a vulnerable enemy, but after exposing herself, she was quickly targeted and down when an arrow cut her face. They moved to flank and push the colonists from their defenses, but when another raider went down, they decided to flee since they'd lost 2/3 of the initial force. But of the 3 that try to flee, 1 gets shot down running away, and another triggers a trap I left out, leaving only 1 survivor of the initial raid. However, of the wounded lying on the ground, I see potential in one named Joven, so Chad stabilizes her to be taken in. Although he had informally been considered the guide of the colony, it was time to actually make it official and become the head of this piece of paradise. It was really hard to disagree with him. I mean, his ability to persuade anyone to his point of view was impressive. Within 2 days of capture, he had already swayed Joven to his ideology. Even people he wasn't trying to recruit wanted to join. Crab, who had developed a liking to Chad, wanted to join the colony. His riz was undeniable, and at this point, with only female colonists beside him, it was starting to look like he was forming a harem. I get a notification of a battle happening, and fortunately it doesn't have to involve me. 2 other factions are just gonna fight in front of my space, and I just get to watch. Obviously, I'm rooting for the dude pack, but tribals with spears versus pigs with guns, kinda obvious who was gonna win here. Once it's pretty much over, I get involved and easily pick off the pigs while they are healing themselves since they had some really nice guns on them. And while you may think I'm just being selfish here, I do save 1 surviving tribal member of the battle and work to nurse them back to health. Them being a woman also had nothing to do with it, of course. As the colonists work on expanding the housing, we get a rude surprise with pirates just landing right in the center of our base. They may have thought that the element of surprise was be enough for them to beat us, but they quickly realized that even when surprised, we are very capable of fighting. Only Chad and Amanda were needed to kill all the pirates, and the only damage they were able to do to us was giving Amanda a small bruise. Finally, Joven was convinced to join our colony, and not even a day later we get word of a much larger raid coming from 3 directions. The 1 small group in the south was very easy to deal with thanks to our traps, but the 2 other groups had managed to breach our northern defense. This could have been a problem, but they are tribal, so they really couldn't do much damage to us. Amanda had been locked in a long melee battle with one of the tribals, and I'm sure she would have loved to deliver the final blow to knock the guy out, but Chad stepped in to steal the kill. Chad was given a new purpose when he heard that the important relic called the open rifle was nearby, and as he awaited the first clue, he got an urgent mission to defend another damaged shuttle from raiders. But when the raiders showed up, it didn't seem like they needed my help at all. To get our first clue about the open rifle, I would have to hack it out of a space drone and defend it against attacking mechs. After I downed the drone, I would soon realize how much I underestimated these mechs. When they came, the Militor was able to get a good shot on Paizoto, but we were able to down it quickly after that. Paizoto had to go back to heal after taking all that buckshot to the face though. That was nothing compared to the pikeman though. I didn't realize how heavily armored the thing was, so Amanda was just making it mad, banging on it with her mace, and our SMGs were barely scratching it. I thought blinding it would at least have a big effect on its combat performance, but as I retreated Amanda back, it had no problem chasing her down and knocking her out. I also realized that Paizoto's revolver was the only thing capable of piercing the pikeman's armor, so I had to get Crab to pick it up to fight it. For some reason, the SMG also glitched out and I wasn't able to shoot them, so I had Chad run back to the base to grab a shotgun. I was coping heavily at the time, hoping maybe this shotgun could shoot off a critical body part or something. But when Crab arrived and started shooting the robot, it was actually doing damage. Not much, but it was something. But for a blind machine, wow, it shoots pretty accurately. It wounded Crab pretty badly, but I couldn't heal her because she was the only person who could distract it from destroying the artifact. The battle basically turned into Crab leaning out from behind cover and taking as many shots as possible before the drone shot back. When Chad arrived, things started looking pretty good. He was keeping the robot distracted while Crab was damaging it. We were clearly making it mad since it started moving away from the ship to attack us, but as we got the pikemen to half health, the revolver glitched out and wouldn't fire anymore. I guess the pikemen noticed the gun was disabled too, because after that, it stopped fighting us and just finished destroying the ship. And I just had to sit there and watch it just walk away. So after that situation, the mood was pretty low in the colony. First, Amanda had a mental breakdown and tries to free the prisoner I'm trying to sell. At least Chad can talk some sense into her. But Julvin, on the other hand, well, we just let walk around since she's just genetically coded to be sad. I needed to get everyone's mood up, so Chad hosts a conversion party to get Crab into her ideology, and it works out very well with everyone enjoying the party and getting a great mood boost. A random teenager shows up begging to join our colony, and I agreed to accept her out of pity, but after seeing that she is a genetic drug addict, I just don't want to put up with it at all, so I just kinda tell her to keep moving. But I don't think Randy liked me making this decision, since not even an in-game hour later, raiders attack me. These could have been a problem if they had a better tactic than running through my traps and headfirst into my defensive line. Later on, while going to the hospital to check on Amanda, this random guest, Zagogo, had the gall to insult Chad's drip right after he just left combat. Unsurprisingly, this caused Chad to throw hands with her because she clearly wanted to start something if she's insulting him at this moment. Our friends in the southeastern Collium were gonna do us a favor and help us look into another clue for the open rifle relic. They even sent a nice shuttle to fly us over there. The base was completely abandoned, so we could just focus on hacking the terminal for information, but apparently our landing had been spotted. The raiders tried the tactic of running directly towards the people shooting at them, and it worked just as well as you'd expect. Now we just had to find the next terminal, and yeah, so an explosive container set this room on fire, and when I tried to put it out, my colonist passed out from smoke inhalation. Had no clue that was a mechanic in the game, but here we are. But once the fire burns itself out, I do get the information, but we can't even spend any time recovering here because raiders show up to attack our home base, so I have to rush everyone to the shuttle to fly back home ASAP. Upon arriving back, Chad just has a mental breakdown, leaving the women of the colony to rely on each other to defend against the pigs. And to their credit, they handled the situation very well. Pigs couldn't even get a single scratch on them before they were sent running away. With many people on edge, I thought throwing a party would be a great way to boost everyone's morale again, but I guess I should have seen it coming that a bunch of people on the verge of mental breakdowns don't plan very good parties, so now everyone's feeling worse. Eventually, everyone calmed down, and I could focus on the next clue for the artifact. This one was much simpler for me to get, even though I had to walk to it. There was only one sleeping mech, which was pretty easy to deal with, and an unstable container that I only had to wait out for the fire before getting the clues I needed and returning home. I thought now was a good time for Chad to upgrade his status on this planet, and he needed a throne room to prove he was worthy. Everyone went to work trying to make a very nice throne room for him so Chad could finally become an acolyte. The ceremony went very well and everybody was happy for him, but he couldn't even have one night to enjoy this title without being challenged by a very large group of raiders. These raiders were very well armed and forced me to split up the group. The southern push got past my traps with little problems and were able to take up positions to flank Chad and Joven. With so many pigs surrounding them, they were overwhelmed and taken down. Amanda tried to strike down the flanking pigs, but her frail body could not handle the pressure from buckshot. The only reason we didn't completely die was Crab managing to gun down the pigs rushing her from both sides, making them want to retreat. Even though the raiders were gone, there were still critical problems. 4 out of the 5 colonists were bleeding out, and Crab was the only one capable of doing medical work with no medical skill. So she had to prioritize the people who were going to bleed out first, and in the time it took her to bandage most of the wounds, she collapsed from her own bleeding. Fortunately, Amanda had regained consciousness, so it was possible for her to be able to finish the job and save everyone, but on the way to the hospital, she has a mental breakdown. This basically sealed Chad's fate on the hospital bed. As Amanda walked around the base in a mental daze, Chad died from blood loss. He came to this world to prove that he had the skills to defeat even the most difficult challenges, but Randy proved to be too powerful for him. And this is how the story of Chad ends. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this story, and if you did, subscribe and like the video. Got other stuff for you to watch too, and of course, more goodness in the future. But anyways, see y'all next time.